Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Fabian for Liberty. FabianForLiberty.com is my website. In this video, I want to talk about the Federal Reserve's emergency meeting yesterday and thereafter meeting with Barack Obama, Janet Yellen. And is the Federal Reserve planning an April surprise? A lot of economic stuff I want to break down in this video. I touched on this yesterday a little bit in the video that I posted regarding Ted Cruz stealing the Colorado delegates with no votes, no election whatsoever. The new America, welcome. And I'm going to pack it with a lot of, kind of economic data here that I think is really, really important, all moving towards what I have talked about now for at least a year, this global stimulus that I think not only is going to happen, but potentially is already underway. I want to remind everybody that every Wednesday I do a free real estate investing webinar. I'm going to break down a lot of real estate stuff here as well because all this goes together, stocks, real estate, GDP, base money, all these different things that I'm going to break down. But that's at 4 p.m. Pacific time. You could register by clicking the link below. And everybody that registers today will be able to join me on one of my free group coaching calls. Basically, everybody that becomes a member of my course gets group coaching calls. I'm having one today at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So if you join the webinar today, you'll get access to that and you get a look on the inside on what we talk about. And you could ask me anything you want. So great. Looking forward to that. Okay, so let's go over some of the things. I mentioned some things yesterday regarding the economy. First quarter growth in the economy was at first 0.4%. It's been downgraded now to 0.1%. They're saying inventories are high because people are not buying as much. The stock market today actually is interesting, is up big because now the Russians and Saudis have come out and said that they are going to cut production. I find this interesting that the Saudis now are saying this in light of lawmakers coming out today saying that 28-page report that was part of the 9/11 Commission that's been omitted from the 9/11 report. There's now lawmakers that are coming out and saying, yeah, look, it looks like the Saudis officials actually met with the hijackers, two of them that were living in Los Angeles prior to 9/11. I mean, this is something we've always known, the Saudis were involved in 9/11, but if you said that before, you were a conspiracy theorist and potentially a domestic terrorist. That's how far they would take this. But GDP growth is actually doing miserable. Anybody that knows, look, is there opportunity in the economy today? Is there opportunity in the world? Of course there is, and there will always be. But we're talking specifically about policies that the U.S. government has taken to try to boost the economy and that the Fed has taken trying to boost the economy. Not just here, but in Europe as well. And it is failing miserably. You look at the stock market, for example, and you look at something like the Wilshire 5000, and you look at the base money supply, and the base money supply, the money that is in circulation, has increased exponentially, and it is now mirroring the increase in the Wilshire 5000. If you look at stocks, if you look at real estate, both are in hyper bubbles. They're way above any type of norm. You look at the stock market. PE ratios, profit to earnings ratios, or price to earnings ratios are at 26, ladies and gentlemen. Usually like the norm is like 10 to 13. They're at 26. Another hyper bubble in stocks, which we've talked about, I've talked about for some time now. So, what is going on here? We had today the George Soros coming out and saying that Europe needs a surge in liquidity to deal with the influx of Syrian refugees that are coming into the country. We look at Austria today, or yesterday, over the weekend, basically announcing more bail-ins, a new bail-in plan where lenders are getting haircuts of 54%. Anybody with $75,000 of euros are considered rich. We're going to take some of that money. Here in California, Jerry Brown, state income tax rate in California, 15%, ladies and gentlemen, on top of the 42% federal income tax rate. They want to raise that. They want to do away with the 1% for homeowners. They want to increase that as well. They want to increase the millionaire tax. So all over the world, we're seeing a grab for money. And I have to think that economists know, look, if we don't come up with money somehow, this thing is going to be over. And the best way for the feds to come up with money is by actually creating money out of thin air. The privately held Federal Reserve, owned by the big banks, that used to be a conspiracy theory. Now it's very well known. And in fact, one of Ben Bernanke's top aides recently came out and said that if the American people knew how privately owned the Federal Reserve was, there would be complete chaos. It would be completely an uproar over how big banks on Wall Street that are funding Hillary Clinton, that are funding the campaigns of Ted Cruz, that they would be, up in arms over knowing that their democracy, the republic, is under attack by the big banks on Wall Street. All of this comes to the point of yesterday. The Fed holds an impromptu meeting, which really means an emergency meeting, and it was a closed-door meeting. We don't know what was discussed. We don't know what was discussed. I could bet you what was discussed was what I've discussed here, that we have an economy that is growing and very well could be in negative growth. If you factor in inflation, we had negative growth for the first quarter. Second quarter, if they don't do something, it's going to be more negative growth. And that spells really bad for the globalist puppet, banker-funded Hillary Clinton's campaign. And you have to look at politics, you have to look at economics as the same. The big banks, ladies and gentlemen, the European central banks, the banksters in Europe, they want a Clinton because what Clinton is representative of is more economic stimulus. She's someone that's going to, and this is why you can mark my words. I believe that in the very near future, we'll have both the Bernie Sanders campaigns, and more importantly, the Hillary Clinton campaign, talking about how the U.S. needs a new stimulus plan. We need a new stimulus plan to create jobs. That's what they're going to say. And it's the same thing that Barack Obama did, $1 trillion stimulus plan, did absolutely nothing for the economy. But remember, the majority of people in America that are hopped up on Prozac and lithium, they actually believe Obama saved the economy. They actually believe that the stimulus plan and the bailouts, that this actually helped the economy, and Barack Obama took us from the brink to some new wonderful, prosperity period in America, which couldn't be further from the truth. The people on Main Street know the fact. They're working longer. Their wages are not going up. Things are getting more expensive. Everybody sees this, right? So what does this mean? Where do we go from here? I would venture to say, and then keep in mind, Janet Yellen then meets with Obama, closed-door meeting again. This is really unprecedented, ladies and gentlemen, to this just all of a sudden it happened unexpectedly. What was being discussed? Is there an April surprise in the cards? Is this the point where they will unleash and start to talk about a need for a global stimulus? Remember, the last G7 meeting, G8 meeting of the world's largest economies, 8 largest economies, global stimulus was talked about, but they didn't really necessarily come up with a plan, which means they already have the plan and they're just waiting for the time to roll it out. This is I think, quite frankly, one of the biggest stories of the year is global stimulus, is the fact that central banks and the Federal Reserve will come together to try to boost the economy. Because again, let me wrap it up with this. We know that busts and boom cycles, the booms always get bigger and then the busts get bigger, right? So we're nowhere even near the boom that they need to go along with the bust that will follow, ladies and gentlemen. And when you have bankers that can basically operate with impunity, they can get away with whatever they want. So of course they're going to try to inflate this as much as they can because they can get more power, they'll get more control, and they make more money. For them, I believe it's not even about the money anymore, it's about the power that they can exercise over the entire economy. At this point, we're talking the global economy. Love to hear your feedback on this. Love to have you on today's call, 2 p.m. Pacific time. Register for my webinar. You'll get all the call-in numbers and everything else. I'll be on there live. And then tomorrow, great presentation, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Learn how these boom and bust cycles, really the busts, really, but this new boom that we're in, all manipulated, all fake, is an incredible opportunity. But the busts, the opportunity and the bust are even bigger, ladies and gentlemen. They're even bigger. I'm Fabian Calvo, Fabian for Liberty. Thanks for watching. I'm out.